Hello everyone, in this video we're going to be taking a look at Best Mage Elf Girl and why she's probably destined to be alone. Unless. SH Figuarts, or SHF Frieren, of course comes from the series Frieren Beyond Journey's End. Essentially it's about her going on adventures with her apprentice Fern, learning about magic and other stuff. Speaking of Fern, her figure's kind of average and I'll talk about that later as well. Anyway, Frieren's box is nicely coloured in blue with some gold accents and features various shots of the figure itself. I think it both suits and presents the figure quite well. Taking her out of the box, she's in a standard SHF plastic tray, which I find generally a bit easier to open than Figma trays. Still, it holds the figure and its parts in place quite well. On the right flap of the box, there's also some brief instructions and descriptions in Japanese, with some more important warnings in English. We can see all the parts here, and there's also a magic effect piece taped to the back of the tray. And here's Frieren. I'd say she's quite accurate to the source material, with my reference point being the anime. She looks exactly like I remember, and she's very small as well, which is also an accurate detail. Frieren is mostly in neutral colours such as white, grey and brown, with some yellow trim and red accents. Her hair is a nice greyish blue and has some shading on it too. Her eyes are also nicely detailed in green, which is also quite accurate to the anime. I don't understand why some SHF have a hand tray whereas others don't. Here are her accessories. She has a total of 6-ish, 7 or 8 hands. I'm not quite sure how to count these. She has 3 pairs total, including her default ones and whatever this is. She has her default open relaxed hands. She has fisty hands. She has holding hands for holding the staff. Her holding hands are not very versatile though. They're enclosed hands and the hole is quite small. Pretty much she'll only be able to hold her staff and other very small accessories which are able to slide into the hand. My personal preference is for open holding hands, but that's okay. If you want her to hold some other things, you can do some light kit bashing. Lastly, she has a pair of prayer hands because she hopes that you'll like the video and subscribe to the channel. I don't really like these hands though. First, they were kinda hard to get on due to having to get the wrist joints in just the right position, and the joints themselves were tight as well, so it was hard to plug in. I had to warm up the joints a bit first to do this. By the way, do you know what the best way to heat up a joint is? When heating up wrist joints, I suggest heating up the alternate hand parts rather than heating up the arm or the wrist joint. Reason being is that there's only one wrist and multiple hands. It's better to make the hands fit to the wrist rather than making the wrist fit to each individual hand, which may also have slight variances. Hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, there's something about these hands that look a bit off to me. Maybe it's because there's a lot of wrist. I guess it makes sense because when you hold your arms in this position with a sleeve like Frieren's, they should kind of slide down, exposing more wrist. I don't know, it still kind of looks a bit weird. Maybe that's just me. After checking with the anime, never mind. I will say that it is a nice inclusion, and so that she can pray for dead people. That may or may not be a spoiler. It's because she's an elf, right? And so that she's old. Or rather, she's young, I guess. What I mean to say is that she's praying for figures which we may or may not get, like Ubel and the boys. Hopefully they don't get stuck in Nendoroid jail. I mean, imagine. Perhaps when season 2 comes around. Coming back to the accessories, Frieren has 3 alternate faceplates, making 4 total. She has her normal default neutral face, a smiley face, a spell chanty, kissy, uwu-o kind of face. I'm not quite sure what to call this. And her silly little oh no, there's trouble, or oh no, I'm in trouble face. The ears on this one are downturned too, which is a nice detail and very anime accurate. Another face which would have been nice would have been her smug, mischievous one. Along with that, her purple bottle of stuff, which does things, would have been an excellent addition. She has 2 alternate hair pieces for when you'd like her to have straight hair. This is a thoughtful addition and allows for more posing options. She of course has her staff, which looks very nice and is quite detailed. For Frieren to hold it, the top part can be removed and you can just slide it into her holding hands. I kind of wish this part was articulated so that gravity could be emulated, but that's just a nitpick. Lastly, she has her magic circle effect piece and a stand for it. It's a bit big to display at the front, but looks quite nice when placed behind her. Mine still has a plastic protective piece on it, which I haven't removed. If taken off, I'm sure it'd look a lot better. While there is a stand for the effect piece, there is no stand for Frieren herself. And no Figma bag because, well, this ain't a Figma. For articulation, she's definitely better than Fern, and I'll talk about that after we go over Frieren. Her head moves like this, turns all the way around, she can nod and tilt her head. Her hair also swivels, but only the straight part goes all the way around. With her default hair going to the front, the body and ears will get in the way a bit. Her cape is a soft plastic and moves quite well. However, it can't be taken off as it is attached to the neck and the back of the body. You could probably mod it somehow and remove it, as she does seem to have a whole neck and collarbone detail underneath, but do so at your own risk. Her arms are limited by the cape slightly, but movement is still okay as long as you're patient and work around the cape. She also has double jointed elbows. Her cuff doesn't move, but her hands move quite well, and the cuff is big enough so that it doesn't get in the way too much. Surprisingly, Frieren has quite good torso movement under the cape. Her upper body is in two parts, so she can bend back and forth and has a separate ab crunch, both of which can be moved around independently. Her skirt is also soft plastic. It feels a little bit harder than the cape, but that may be because it's a bigger piece. Underneath, she has quite standard leg movement. She can kick back and forth about this much, depending on how much you want to move the skirt. She can try to do the splits. Her knees can bend this much. Her boots do not swivel. Her ankles move like this. And she has a toe bend. Overall, her joints feel nice and sturdy, but not stiff. I think she has a good range of motion given her design and that she's a mage. Speaking of mages and motion, Fern. Now I don't have her and I don't have anything against her character, but I'm probably not going to get her figure, unless I find her for particularly cheap. Reason being, due to her overall design and robe, you can just tell that she's not going to move much. You could argue that this may not be an issue because they're mages, but when I buy an articulated figure, I expect, some articulation. I guess they wanted to keep a similar aesthetic to Frieren, but I think Fern could have benefited from soft goods for her robe, similar to what SHF Makima has. Another idea could have been alternate dress or robe pieces allowing for sitting gestures. While mages don't move around that much, they do sit and chill from time to time, right? But of course, those would probably drive up the price a bit. That said, Fern was already 1,000 yen above Frieren on release, I guess because of her bigger size and more detailed staff. Let me know your thoughts on Fern if you do have her. For now, Frieren will be the only Frieren figure that I get. Frieren balances quite well, which is good because she doesn't come with a stand. But she's also not going to be doing any extreme poses, so it's not really an issue. Frieren is 12 centimeters tall, or around 4 3/4 inches. This makes her about 144 or 4'9", assuming a 1/12 scale. And this is incorrect because she is meant to be 160 centimeters from online sources, so I guess technically more of a 1/13 scale. Why'd they make her so small? Anyway, here she is next to Dark Magician Girl, NHO2, Mona, NHO1, SHF Mina Ashiro, Kita-san Black, Chun-Li, Nikkei stands, and Gacha Mem. Despite being a smaller size, she'll still fit in with most collections, because, well, height difference is a thing after all. Overall, Frieren is a good figure, and doing this review has made me appreciate her some more. Previously, she kind of just stood in front of me, essentially A-posing with her staff. It's always a good idea to play with or pose your figures from time to time. After all, that's why we get articulated figures, right? If you're a fan of the manga, anime, or just the character in general, I would say she's definitely worth picking up. I am once again hoping we do get more of the cast, particularly Ubel, who I guess should have better articulation. That way, Frieren won't have to be alone. Anyway, here's more figure stuff. Thanks for watching, take care, have a good one, and I'll see you again next time.